Suzanne, thank you so much for joining, having a quick chat with me today. Certainly appreciate it. I thought, with your experience and background, I thought it'd be really great to just try and get a couple of insights about the future of work and where the workforce is heading, and what kind of role does technology have with that?
One of the things that I often say is that digital is to today's workforce as coal was to the Industrial Revolution. Things are changing. Back then, they were creating new devices, new things that could create and manufacture. And digital's doing basically the same thing today. It's changing every day how we work. I think IT departments are, enveloping those types of new digital ways of working, and HR is, running to keep up, to get the skills of employees up to par. Digital dexterity is something that's so important today. Having employees understand how to use all the tools that are at their access.
Yeah, a lot of the times I'm having conversations, and I'm always just like almost flabbergasted by how many technologies there are out there in some organizations, that it just seems like such a disaster, where they're having 10, 15, even 20 logins to do a bunch of different things that are all so close. So in your experience, are you seeing a bit of kind of bringing it all together under one platform, or at least trying to reduce the amount of technology that's being used and trying to streamline some of those technologies?
Digital friction is huge right now, and it's with the speed of technology and the changes that are happening and the tools that customers use as well as employees use. It's making it much more difficult for them to get their jobs done, because they're using time to decide, oh, should I use this tool? Should I do that? Where should I go? Which one should I use? And, if it's all together in one place, developing one platform where people go, it's sort of for people on the front line, as well as people in the office. It's an umbilical cord for people to stay connected with the company. That's the way I describe it. And that's what you want, something simple, one line into the business that's feeding them, that's training employees, that's keeping them up to date with what's important with the company. And, the umbilical cord to the company should be simplistic, should be something that leads employees in the direction they should go. It doesn't, it feeds them. It doesn't hammer them over the head with, you have to use this, you have to use that.
Having buy-in from a senior leadership perspective, there certainly are some more progressive leaders out there. I would love to kind of know what your thoughts are around like buy-in from a senior leader type organization that's trying to be more progressive, trying to understand how to utilize technology for the better. How important is it to have senior leadership buy-in on implementing new platforms?
In general, senior leadership sets the pace for the company, but they also need to understand the things that employees go through. The heads in the cubes, I call it. They need to understand, the emotions that they go through, the time that they waste trying to figure out things. There is so much that employees go through during a day that leadership doesn't really know. They have their problems, employees have their problems, and you have HR in the middle. So how can we bring it all together? And just studying one's employees and understanding the problems that they go through, the hoops that they have to jump through in order to do their job. That's what leadership needs to do. I was in a situation where leadership decided, no, we have too many tools, we can't use this new one. And that was cutting off some of the ability for employees to be able to connect and to collaborate. I mean, as humans, what we want to do is connect. I mean, that's, community is what we've done ever since cavemen, coming together and understanding and helping each other. And the silos that are built in business today prevent that. And I think that, leadership is one thing that they have so much on their minds. How are we going to make profits? How are the customers feeling? But, what they extend out to the customer is a white glove. Every leader wants to extend a white glove out to their customer, whether it's a consumer or it's a B2B. And in that white glove is the employee. And if you're not helping your employee do their job correctly, that exchange between frontline employee, and the customer isn't going to work.
The thing that I find very interesting is you talk about putting that white glove out, right? And do you find now, as the world is turning, the technology is evolving, the workforce, I mean, I know we're all tired of hearing about the Great Resignation, but in today's world and the conversations we're having, we're really talking about retention, right? You're driving down the highway and you're seeing billboards about, hey, come work here, and you're seeing restaurants, you're seeing manufacturing plants being shut down. It's just about not having enough workforce. So it's really interesting to talk about, some organizations think about the client experience, but when we talk about, our employee experience, it's really interesting to see how organizations can make that employee experience better. And then also looking at the correlation between an engaged employee, right? So that communication, knowing what's happening with the workforce. I always say this, feeling like part of the family, but also, how are organizations really addressing the problem of retention? And, do you think that engagement has a direct correlation to retention of your workforce?
Engagement and being noticed is, pretty much the very top of the pile there for employees. Just being noticed. There are so many of them and so few leaders. So how can we recognize our employees is a very important question to answer. How can we ensure that our employees understand what they're doing makes a difference to the customer, whether or not they're customer facing or not. These things all matter. There's a turn in employees right now. Many people are leaving their roles because they feel like they didn't believe in it. And, this isn't something that I want to put all my efforts into. So, causes and things like diversity. These are things that employees today are looking for, that in the past it wasn't a big deal to them, but now they're moving into, hey, I want to be in a place, in a company that's sustainable, that cares about the environment. Things like that are causing employees to leave their job. There's also things like, nobody notices me. Nobody would even know if I wasn't there. I'm in my apartment all alone. I'm not working with anybody. I'm isolated. And in particular with those call centers, those employees are group employees, and they party together, they lunch together, they're used to being together. And during COVID, they were, alone, sitting at their desk in their homes. And, it was devastating to them. So finding a new role where they're with people somehow, or there's more collaboration or more community that they can join, that's very important for them. So, we are definitely in a big change right now. It's just the corporate walls have come crashing in because they've become virtual. Chairs and tables and where you're located, what floor you're on, it doesn't matter. It's more, how am I using the tools to connect with others, and how am I pulling together my office mates? How am I acting with them? How are we staying up to pace with each other? And where's that sense of play, that sense of, meeting someone in the hallway? How can we replace that in the virtual world? Taking a pulse of your employees and helping them to understand, tell me what it is that you need. How is this working? How is this not working? Those things are pivotal in moving forward into this digital future.